Welcome back to Map Your Move on the Costa del Sol. In part 1, we looked at your mindset and location. In part 2, we talked about timelines, visas, schools and healthcare. And in this final part 3, we're pulling it all together for you. We're going to look at your financial plan and your Costa del Sol property strategy. What it really takes to own a home here with a very clear and realistic plan. This is exciting. I'm excited to pull this all together in the last part of this mini series. Now, the very first thing that we need to do is get really honest about your budget. Your budget is very important and can mean different things to different people. So what we're going to do now is dive into the exact steps that we take with our clients when it comes to defining your budget. Right, Warner?
Absolutely. Budget is key. Knowing
Amazing.
what you have to spend is really important.
So the very first thing that we're going to do in this pillar is to get really clear and honest about budget. Your budget, but your real budget, okay?
Yeah,
They're often
exactly.
very different things. And it's very important that people understand that the price that you'll actually pay for the property is not your real budget.
No.
There's lots of other things that you need to factor in and that you need to take into consideration when it comes to getting crystal clear on your budget. So Warner, some advice from you on this. What can somebody begin to do now when it comes to understanding their budget?
Okay, one of the things that I would recommend, we have created the budget calculator. And the budget calculator is basically a calculator where you can put your budget that you think you have, and when you put the budget in, it tells you how much it's actually going to cost you. So it gives you a kind of benchmark of how much it's going to cost.
Yeah, so this is a free resource that we created for our clients, and we actually give it to them as a tool when they start to work with us. It is a tool where they can plug in all of their numbers, and it will actually tell them if that is the price of the property that you're considering buying, this is the gross amount that you need, so this is your actual budget. And it's accompanied with a really nice video that talks them through the tool. And I think that we're feeling a little bit generous today, so we will actually link the budget calculator tool in the description of this video. So if you need to get really, really clear in your numbers and you need to understand what your real budget is, click the link. Go and play around with the tool and start to really understand what your numbers are. But Warner, I think even before that point, like there's one very important question that you're going to need to ask yourself. How are you going to pay for the property?
That's one very important question. So, you have to look at your finances, look at the market, study the market and decide, what do you want to buy? Do you want to buy an apartment? Do you want to buy a townhouse, a villa? What is your budget going to buy in the area that you choose?
But how are you going to pay for that? You can look and understand your budget till the cows come home. But what do you need to do first? Where are you getting the money from? Are you a cash buyer? Do you need a mortgage? These are very, very critical questions that you need to ask yourself first in principle before you even start to understand what your budget is and what you're going to buy.
Well, obviously, people want to come to buy a property in Spain, then they need to have money and they need to have an idea how much money they have. If they have a certain amount of money and they're looking for finance, then they need to speak to a finance expert to understand how much they can get and what they can buy.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you are planning to use finance, if you go to the resources section of our website, you can actually go to the section called mortgages and get in contact with one of our trusted advisors when it comes to securing finance, and they will contact you directly and have a no obligation conversation with you, but to really help you understand how you might go about the steps to acquire a mortgage and secure finance, if that's the route that you need to go, right?
Yeah, that's one of the questions. I have part of the money, but how do I get a mortgage in Spain? And we've made it easy for them. They go to the section on the website, mortgages, fill in the contact details, and they'll contact you back.
Okay, so I hear you say this time and time again, your real budget is not just the purchase price. There's other things that you need to take into consideration. And I know that you map this out really well in the budget calculator for everybody, but just give us the highlights. What are those other things that you need to think about when it comes to understanding your real budget?
Okay, so let's look at this. The purchase price of how much the property is going to cost you is obviously a big step there. Then you have the taxes that you have to pay to buy the property, and then you have to look at your legal and notary fees to change the property into your name. Does it need furniture? The furniture good enough? A lot of the properties that are sold in Spain are sold as seen.
Yeah, that's right.
But is it your furniture? Do you want to change the furniture? You know, does it need renovation? You know, community fees is, you know, these new developments, they could be high community fees.
That more comes though in your running expenses,
Yeah,
right? Like you're not going to be taking community fees part of your actual real budget. You're going to be talking about taxes, legal and notary, furniture and setup costs, and I think it's also important that you keep a buffer in there.
Yeah, you have
Things
to.
don't always go to plan.
No, you keep a buffer and, you know, money for renovations.
Yeah.
Say that might need painted or something, you know, the kitchen might need upgraded. So it's really important that you factor in all of these costs when you choose to decide that's the property for you.
Yeah. I would take this a step further. I would say, okay, you'll have a fair idea of what your budget is, okay? Then you need to download our budget calculator. You need to put in the price of the property that you're thinking to buy. And then we've already factored in for you what those other costs are in terms of taxes, notary fees, and any other unexpected costs that you need to plan for. Then you kind of look at, okay, that's my gross budget just to purchase the property. And then you need to think about the property itself. Does it need a new kitchen, or can you live with the kitchen for another 2 years? Because then you need to say, what's left? If I've any money left over, how am I going to be able to spend that to bring the property into a livable standard that's right for me? So it's almost like looking at it in two parts, and then ensuring that when you've made those decisions about the property, that you've got a little bit of a buffer left there just in case something doesn't go to plan, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, the buffer is king. So, and you always have to keep additional funds for anything miscellaneous that could come up.
All right, brilliant. So thank you for helping us to understand what the real budget could possibly be, and a very logical approach to help you understand what your real budget is. Now I want to talk a little bit about building your property strategy, and that's what we do with our clients all day long. So when we've done all the other work, and we understand your numbers and your finances, you know, what's your budget and how you're going to pay for your property, then we need to make a property strategy to support you to find the right property for you. And this is the work that we do with our clients all day long, helping them to find a property strategy before that they choose their specific home. Now, Warner, can you talk us through an example of a property strategy and what kind of questions buyers need to be asking themselves when they're making this property strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. So when, you know, the buyers come through, then they have a seat, and we kind of have to look at what's their needs and wants.
Yeah.
What are they looking for? Are they looking for, is their dream to have that sea view, or is their dream to be in the country, or, you know, different aspects of that. Is it a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom? Do they want to be in a community? You know, all of these will factor in, you know, where we decide, you know, that they were interested in buying. Okay.
Are there other important questions though that you need to understand from the buyer? What about things like, you know, what's their plan for the property when they purchase it?
Yeah.
Are they planning to live in it all year round? Do they need to ensure that it's a property that they can rent out when they're not using it? I'm sure that these are things that are even more important than understanding proximity to the beach. You want to understand those questions first before you even start to think about the neighbourhoods, because in my mind, they come first before you can really even understand what neighbourhood you're going to direct them to.
Yeah, a lot of people will come to me and say, I want to buy a property in Spain, and I'm saying, well, why do you want to buy a property in Spain? And they say, well, I want to have a property where I can, come and go as much as I want, or I want to buy a property because I can't buy a property in my own country. I want to buy it here for investment. Then we need to look at areas that have the tourist license. And the good thing about that is they want to use it as well as rent it. So it's a good opportunity.
Some questions that they could start to ask themselves, or that we would work through asking them, are things like, are you mostly lifestyle? What do you mean by that? That you're using the property only for you? Or are you mostly lifestyle with some income, in terms of when you're not using it, do you want to rent it out? So do you want to generate some revenue from it? Are you just going to rent it out to friends and family, or are you going to put it onto the open market and acquire a tourist license? Or is it completely investment? Do you not really intend to use it yourself at the moment? That's more of a long-term plan. But they're three separate categories that are very important to understand, right?
Yeah, well, it is, because you have to understand, they're living in a different country, they're buying a property here, what's the reason that they're buying for?
Yeah. And then we want to understand things like, do you see yourself in an apartment, in a townhouse, in a villa, and why? Some people are very happy with apartment living, some people are not. Or maybe you've not been used to apartment living, but you want to take the time to explore that in your new country. So these questions they're critical to understand to make your property strategy before we even start to identify the property and the location.
Look, people have an idea, so when they come in, you do the discovery call, they'll have an idea. I want a 1 bedroom, or I want a 2 bedroom. I don't like apartment living. I want to have a townhouse because I want to have my own garden. And, eventually we kind of break it down to, what they're looking for, and can they afford it?
Yeah. I think another question as well that we always would encourage somebody to bring into their preparation for their property strategy is, what condition is the property? Do you want a new build? Do you want turnkey condition? Are you comfortable with some renovation? Do you want a complete reform? Often, if people are first time dipping their toe in Spain, unless they have a lot of investment experience and maybe experience with flipping properties, they don't really want a massive reform. They're happy with a new kitchen, new bathroom, more kind of superficial work. They don't necessarily want that new reform, particularly if they're not going to be here to oversee it and it's their first investment in Spain. So I think it really depends on the type of investor that you're dealing with and what that person's comfortable with in terms of what they take on with their investment. So, anything else in terms of questions that you would help in terms of preparing for your property strategy?
Yeah, so I think we've covered obviously their budget, location, why they want to buy it. Are they looking for an apartment living, townhouse, villa? All depends on their budget and the condition of the property. Are they looking for that, as I always say, the perfect property or the potential property?
So just to recap, the full framework that we've covered with you today across the 3 episodes of our mini-series are mindset and location, legal and everyday life, financial plan, and building your property strategy. All of these come together to support you to make a successful move or investment along the Costa del Sol. So I hope you've been taking notes. And if you haven't, go back, listen again, take some notes. It's important that you take this all in to help and support you to build your very own plan. Often people can have all of the information. We give people so much information, or we see people out there with so much information, but they're still stuck, because you can have all of the information in the world, but you still need to make a decision to take action. And that's really important that you think about that as well. Am I an action taker, and am I prepared to take action now that I have all of the information to support me to make my investment right?
Yeah, absolutely. For example, in December, I had a couple come to me. They know the Costa del Sol. They've been here for years, and they came to me and they were a bit down, and I was like, what's wrong with you? And he's like, well, we've been trying to buy in the Costa del Sol for so many years, and I think our budget has just it's not big enough to find a property. And I was like, so what is your budget? And they told me your budget, and I said, look, this is wrong. Who have you been listening to? Oh, John in the pub told me this, and they told me the prices and everything else. And I said, look, here's 3 properties that I've sold in your budget. What do you think about them? And they said, they're perfect. So just trust the experts, and there is a property there for everybody, but you just need to make sure that you navigate it so that you can find it and you have the right people on board to do that.
Absolutely, Warner. And that's why we've created a community of like-minded future Costa del Sol homeowners, people who are serious about making the move or investment happen and not just talking about it. Now, inside that community, we host a monthly Q&A where you can bring all of your questions, hear from others on the same path as you, and keep moving forward with ease instead of slipping back to, oh, we'll do it one day. Most people will keep scrolling property portals and dreaming about it from the cold, and a very few will actually map their move, plug into a community of ours, like ours, and make their move happen. So you need to decide which one are you.
Exactly.
Thank you for watching and listening. Remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye for now.